If a woman does these 5 things, it's not just a red flag, it's a full-on siren. And if you ignore them, you're setting yourself up to get emotionally drained, used, or straight up disrespected. Most men don't see the signs until it's too late. Don't be one of them. Look, too many guys stay in situations way longer than they should, hoping that things will change, thinking she just needs more time or attention. But what if I told you there are very clear signs a woman gives you when she doesn't respect you, value you, or even see a future with you? And what if I also told you that when you ignore those signs, you're basically teaching her that she can walk all over you? This video is going to expose those signs in plain language. No fluff, no guessing games. Just raw truth. If a woman does these 5 things, it's not just a red flag, it's a full-blown warning sign. And most men don't even notice them until it's already too late. They find themselves drained, confused, doubting their own worth, and still chasing someone who stopped caring a long time ago. This video isn't about blaming or hating women. It's about giving you the awareness you need to stop tolerating behavior that chips away at your confidence, your peace, and your time. Because here's the truth. When a woman shows you who she is through her actions, you better believe her. And when she shows you these specific actions, the only right response is to walk away, not run after her, not negotiate, not try harder. Walk. The problem is, we're conditioned to hold on, even when it hurts. We're told to be patient, understanding, emotionally available. And while those things matter in a healthy relationship, they're completely useless when you're with someone who has no intention of respecting you. Too many guys mistake disrespect for mood swings. They write off manipulation as emotional complexity. They think if they're just a little more supportive or a little less needy, maybe she'll go back to the way she was in the beginning. But what they don't realize is she's not coming back. The woman who once adored you, who used to text you nonstop, touch you constantly, and brag about you to her friends, she's already gone. And what's left is someone who sees what she can get away with and how far she can push you before you snap. If you don't draw that line, she will keep testing you. Let's be real. Disrespect doesn't always start loud. It's not always yelling or name-calling. Sometimes it starts with subtle things. The way she interrupts you while you're talking, or how she laughs at your opinions in front of other people like they're jokes. You might think she's just teasing, that she means well. But over time, these moments start adding up. Every small jab chips away at your self-respect. And if she sees that you're too afraid to speak up or walk away, she takes that as permission to keep going. At some point, it's no longer about whether she respects you. It's about whether you respect yourself. Because a man who respects himself doesn't tolerate being treated like an option. He doesn't allow a woman to embarrass him in public and then act like it's no big deal. He walks, not because he's weak, but because he knows his value. There's this false idea floating around that if you care deeply about someone, you should be willing to tolerate anything. But that's exactly how people get stuck in one-sided relationships, feeling anxious, constantly questioning themselves, and living in survival mode, not connection. When a woman starts withholding affection just to get her way, it's not a sign of independence. It's not her being strong or setting standards. It's control. She knows you crave that closeness. She knows it hurts you when she pulls away. So instead of resolving issues like an adult, she'll use distance to punish you. She won't say what's wrong. She'll just go cold. Short texts, no eye contact, no affection. And now you're the one trying to fix things you didn't even break. You'd be surprised how many guys confuse this kind of behavior for emotional depth. They think she's just complex or hard to read. But in reality, it's not depth, it's manipulation. A woman who actually cares about you doesn't use silence as a weapon. She communicates. She listens. She wants things to get better. But a woman who's lost respect for you, she punishes. She withholds. And she watches you shrink yourself, trying to get back in her good graces. It becomes a game. One where she's always winning and you're always proving. And the more effort you give, the more she pulls back, because now she knows you're addicted to chasing her approval. Here's where it gets dangerous. When a woman keeps you guessing on purpose. One day she's all over you, texting first, calling you baby, asking when she'll see you again. The next day, she's dry, distant, not responding for hours. You ask if something's wrong and she says, "I've just been busy." You try to be understanding. You don't want to come off as insecure, but deep down, you know something's off. And that's exactly where she wants you. Off balance. The constant shift between hot and cold keeps you hooked. It creates confusion, which triggers anxiety, which makes you chase even harder. And once you're in that loop, she has full control. Because now, she doesn't have to be consistent. She just has to give you just enough attention to keep you from leaving. This is the exact same principle casinos use. It's called intermittent reinforcement. You don't win every time. You just win enough to stay addicted. So when a woman gives you small bursts of love and attention, followed by cold silence, you're not in love. You're in a psychological trap. One that leaves you constantly guessing, overanalyzing every interaction, wondering if you're doing too much or not enough. And that kind of emotional roller coaster does more damage than you think. It kills your confidence. It messes with your sense of reality. It makes you think that love is supposed to be unstable and unpredictable. But that's not love. That's manipulation. That's control disguised as chemistry. And if you don't snap out of it, you'll waste months, even years, chasing highs that don't last. It gets worse when you try to bring it up. When you finally find the courage to ask what's going on, she flips it back on you. You're too sensitive. You're overthinking everything. Why are you being so needy? Suddenly, you're the problem. You start questioning whether you're imagining it all. That's not an accident. That's gaslighting. It's meant to make you doubt your own intuition. And once that happens, she can do whatever she wants. Because now, even when she disrespects you, you'll find a way to blame yourself for it. That's how deep this game goes. It's not always loud and obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already hooked. But here's what separates strong men from the ones who get played. Strong men pay attention to patterns, not potential. They don't make excuses for behavior that feels wrong. They don't wait around hoping for someone to change. They recognize that respect isn't optional. Consistency isn't optional. Emotional safety isn't optional. If a woman is constantly making you feel uncertain, disrespected, and unseen, then no matter how beautiful she is, no matter how much history you have to walk. Not because it's easy, but because staying will cost you everything. You might think walking away from a woman like that is harsh, especially when she's not throwing plates or screaming at you. But here's the thing. Emotional damage doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's in the quiet disrespect, the delayed responses, the way she scrolls through her phone while you're pouring your heart out, or how she suddenly acts too tired or not in the mood every time you show her attention, yet somehow she has unlimited energy when it comes to going out with her friends or replying to other guys' comments on social media. And you sit there, convincing yourself that maybe she's just going through something. Maybe you're expecting too much. But deep down, you feel it. She's checked out. Not completely, but just enough to keep you wondering. And that's what keeps you stuck. Let's talk about one of the most dangerous behaviors of all, comparison. When a woman starts comparing you to other guys, whether it's subtle or direct, that's not motivation. It's disrespect. If she says things like, "My ex used to do this for me," or "I wish you were more like so-and-so," she's not trying to help you improve. She's trying to make you feel small. And you know what's worse? Some guys fall for it. They try to compete with those ghosts. They upgrade their clothes, their car, their lifestyle, thinking maybe then she'll finally see them as enough. But the truth is, a woman who respects you doesn't make you compete for validation. She doesn't dangle comparisons over your head to keep you insecure and obedient. That's not love. That's power play. And you have to realize, some women get off on that control. It's not always about love or connection. Sometimes it's about ego. You become a mirror for her own insecurity. If she feels powerless in other parts of her life, She'll dominate where she can. And for many women, that's emotional control in relationships. It's like she creates this emotional maze for you to get lost in. One day she needs space. The next day she's upset that you're distant. You ask her what's wrong, she says nothing, but then later accuses you of not caring. You make plans, she bails last minute. You try again, she acts like you're forcing her. And over time, this mental and emotional tug of war drains the life out of you. It kills your masculine edge. You become reactive. You stop leading. You become a man who waits. Waits for her mood to change. Waits for her to be warm again. Waits for things to go back to how they used to be. And the saddest part? She knows she's doing it. Maybe not always consciously, but she sees what you tolerate. She sees how far she can push. And if you keep letting it slide, she loses respect for you. Fast. That's what most guys don't understand. A woman might test you, but she doesn't want you to fail those tests. She wants to feel your strength, your boundaries, your standards. Not just hear you say them. She wants to see you live them. Because the moment she realizes you're all bark and no bite, she puts you in the category of men she can play with. And once you're in that category, it's almost impossible to climb out. Now here's something else you need to look out for. When a woman only reaches out when she needs something, maybe it's emotional support, maybe it's money, maybe it's just attention to feed her ego, but she never shows up when you need something. She only texts when she's bored, only wants to hang out when it's convenient for her. You'll notice she's full of energy when she's talking about her problems, but suddenly busy when the topic switches to you. She loves your company, but avoids any real commitment. You're always available for her, but somehow she's never fully available for you. And you tell yourself she's just independent, or she's focused on her goals. But the truth is, she's just keeping you around as a backup. You're not a priority, you're a placeholder. And that kind of one-sided investment will kill your self-worth if you let it. It teaches you that you have to earn love, that you have to constantly be useful just to stay relevant in someone's life. But love doesn't work like that. Real love is mutual. It's not about being someone's emotional handyman. It's about showing up for each other. So if she only appears when it benefits her and disappears the moment it costs her something, that's not a relationship. That's exploitation. And the longer you tolerate it, the harder it becomes to tell the difference between love and manipulation. That's how you lose yourself, little by little, in the name of loyalty. And maybe you've seen this one too, the subtle disrespect disguised as jokes. She teases you about your job, your height, your goals, your past. And when you push back, she says, "Relax, it was just a joke." But it doesn't feel like a joke. It feels like a shot, and it stings. But again, you let it slide because you don't want to seem overly sensitive. What you don't realize is she's testing your boundaries, seeing how much she can get away with under the mask of humor. Because if you can't check her when she disrespects you as a joke, she knows she can disrespect you in other ways too. That's why those little comments matter. They're not random. They're part of a pattern, one that slowly conditions you to accept less, tolerate more, and lose sight of what real respect even looks like. And the craziest part, when you finally bring it up, she'll flip it. Say you're being too emotional, call you insecure, act like you're the one creating problems. That's not miscommunication, that's emotional manipulation. And if you don't learn to spot it early, it becomes your normal. You stop trusting your gut. You stop standing up for yourself. You become a version of yourself that she doesn't even respect anymore. And that's when the cycle fully takes hold, where you become a man who gives everything and still feels like he's not enough. This is why walking away isn't weak. It's essential, especially when you see the signs clearly. A woman who weaponizes your emotions, plays mind games, or mocks you in front of others is not someone who deserves your time. And no amount of waiting, helping, fixing, or proving is going to change that. The best thing you can do for yourself, the most powerful thing, is to leave. Not with anger, not with drama, but with clarity. Because a woman who really cares won't put you in a position where you have to constantly question your value. You see, a lot of guys don't walk away because they're afraid of what happens after. The silence, the loneliness, the doubt. They ask themselves, what if I'm overreacting? What if she changes? What if I'm making a mistake? But here's the truth. You don't lose a good woman by leaving someone who never truly respected you. You only make space for better. Because when you stay in situations where you're being emotionally starved, constantly tested, and slowly drained, you're not just hurting your confidence. You're damaging your sense of identity. You start forgetting who you were before all the second guessing, before all the walking on eggshells, before all the quiet compromises you made just to keep the peace. And that's what this really comes down to, peace. Your peace of mind, your sense of control. You can't grow in an environment where you're constantly doubting your worth. When every conversation feels like a landmine, and every interaction feels like a performance just to earn a little bit of affection. And make no mistake, women know when they've got a man wrapped up in overthinking, when they've got you waiting on her next move, trying to decode her mood swings like it's some unsolvable puzzle. But love isn't supposed to be confusing. Respect isn't supposed to be earned like a paycheck. And if she really wanted you, you wouldn't need to keep proving yourself. You know one of the clearest signs that it's time to leave? When she starts pulling away and expects you to chase. Like clockwork, she gives you less effort, shorter replies, colder energy, and waits to see if you'll panic. And let's be real, a lot of guys do. They double text. They ask what's wrong. They try harder. They start buying things, planning dates, going out of their way to win her back. And the more she sees that, the more power she feels. Not love, power. Because now, she knows you'll tolerate anything just to keep her. But that's not attraction, that's fear. And once fear is running the show, respect is already out the window. And here's where it really starts to break you. When you begin blaming yourself for her behavior, you start saying things like, maybe I was too clingy. Maybe I should have handled it differently. Maybe I'm not enough for her. And those thoughts eat you alive. Not because they're true, but because you've been conditioned to think that her mood is your responsibility. That if she's distant, it's your fault. If she's cold, you messed up. But no, sometimes the truth is brutal but simple. She doesn't value you. Not the way she should. Not enough to meet you halfway. And the longer you stay trying to earn something that should have been given freely, the more damage you do to your self-worth. So many guys stay in these kinds of relationships out of fear of being alone. But let me tell you this, being alone in peace is better than being together in chaos. Because the more you accept chaos, the more you normalize it. And soon you won't even remember what a healthy connection feels like. You'll just get used to surviving, to adapting, to hoping. And hope without action is just slow heartbreak. It's sitting in a burning room telling yourself it's not that bad yet. But your soul knows. Your energy knows. And every time you have to lower your standards just to keep her attention, a part of you dies. And don't think she doesn't notice that shift. Women are incredibly tuned into emotional energy. When you stop being assertive, when you stop leading, when you start shrinking yourself to avoid arguments, she feels that. And it kills attraction. Because no woman is drawn to a man who's lost his edge. A man who's afraid to walk away is a man who has no leverage. And relationships are built on mutual power, not submission. If she doesn't fear losing you, she'll never truly respect you. And if she doesn't respect you, nothing else matters. Not how nice you are, not how hard you try, not how much you care. Respect is the foundation. Without it, everything else crumbles. And respect isn't earned by putting up with bad behavior. It's earned by standing firm on what you will and won't allow. And sometimes that means walking away. Not because you're giving up, but because you've finally had enough. Enough of the emotional games. Enough of the one-sided effort. Enough of the waiting, wondering, and wishing. because a woman who's really for you won't put you in those positions in the first place. She won't test you just to see how far she can push. She won't make you prove yourself every week. She'll value your presence without needing to create drama to feel alive. But here's where it gets real. When you do walk away, especially from a woman who's used to having control over you, she won't take it well. At first, she'll act indifferent. She'll pretend it doesn't bother her. She might even post more, party more, try to make it seem like her life is better without you. That's her ego talking. She needs to feel like she still has power. But if you hold the line, if you stay quiet, stay grounded, stay firm, the game flips. Because now she has to face the truth. You're not chasing. You're not begging. You're not biting the bait. And that silence, that's when it hits her. That maybe, just maybe, she underestimated you. And that's the moment of shift. When she realizes that the emotional leash she had on you is gone. That the guy who used to bend over backward is no longer available. That her words don't move you like they used to. Her silence doesn't scare you anymore. And when she finally sees that, when she feels that energy change, that's when regret sets in. Not because she lost a guy who begged for her attention, but because she lost a man who knew his worth and wasn't afraid to walk away. You see, the real power isn't in getting her back. It's in showing her she no longer has the ability to break you. Because once she sees that you're no longer chasing, no longer reacting, no longer tolerating her bare minimum, that's when she starts thinking. That's when the image of you becomes more vivid in her mind than it ever was when you were around all the time. That's when your absence starts to speak louder than any words you could have ever said. And deep down, whether she admits it or not, a woman always remembers the man who had the strength to walk away from her games. But here's the catch. You can't fake it. You can't just pretend to be unbothered while secretly checking your phone, stalking her socials, or hoping she texts. That's not real detachment. That's acting, and she'll sense that. Because women are incredibly intuitive when it comes to reading emotional energy. If you truly want to take your power back, it has to be real. It has to come from a place where you've already accepted the worst case scenario, that she might never come back. And you're still okay with that. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care more about yourself than someone who treated you like a backup plan. And here's the bitter truth a lot of guys don't want to hear. Sometimes, the woman who hurt you the most is the one who teaches you your highest value. Not because she loved you right, but because she didn't. She forced you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why did I put up with this? And when you finally answer that question, when you sit in that uncomfortable truth, you grow. You evolve. You raise your standards. You learn how to stop chasing people who don't match your effort. And in doing that, you become the kind of man that no woman ever wants to lose again. There's nothing more powerful than a man who can walk away from what no longer serves him. A man who's not afraid of silence. A man who's not afraid to start over. That's the kind of man women don't play with. That's the kind of man who gets real respect. Because the moment you stop begging for love is the moment you start attracting something better, something healthier, something real. So if a woman lies to you, disrespects your time, constantly plays emotional games, or shows you with her actions that you're not a priority, you don't negotiate with that. You don't explain to her why it hurts. You don't plead for her to treat you better. You just leave. Not because it's easy, but because your peace matters more than her confusion. Because your value is not up for debate. And the longer you stay trying to fix what someone else keeps breaking, the more you lose yourself in the process. Let her feel the weight of your silence. Let her feel the absence of your attention. Let her experience the difference between having access to you and not. Because once a woman realizes you're not the guy who's going to stick around while being disrespected, everything changes. That's when she reevaluates. That's when she starts replaying memories in her head. That's when the regret begins to creep in. And by that point, you've already leveled up. You've already healed. You've already reclaimed your worth. And now, she's just a lesson. And if she does come back, if she starts showing you the effort she never gave you before, that's not your cue to fall back in. That's your final test. Because sometimes the universe sends people back just to see if you've really learned. And if you have, you'll thank her for the lesson. And keep walking. Because your standards won't let you settle for less than you deserve anymore. Because now, you're the man who leaves when he's no longer being respected. And that kind of man, he never loses. He either wins her full respect, or he walks away with his dignity intact. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking, stressing, or doubting yourself because of how a woman is treating you, remember this. The strongest move isn't to convince her to stay. It's to show her you're not afraid to leave. Because once she knows you won't tolerate her games, she only has two choices. Step up or step out. And either way, you win. Watch the next video.